So the movie starts with Howard Stern descending onto the MTV Movie Awards, I believe.
Yep.
Presented by John Stamos.
Who looked great. Legit
He's
snack.
Playing the character of Fart Man. I don't know. Is this a thing from the show?
That definitely
Fart
happened. I don't know. I know that it happened on the VMAs. I know I watched when it did.
Fart Man has a page on Wikipedia, so
Great.
First appeared in 1979. Okay. Well, then we get his voiceover, and he starts walking in the backstage area among the other celebrities, and Ozzy Osbourne is there, and he's like saying, "I don't fit in at all with these people."
It seems like he would have interviewed several of those people, but yeah.
That's another thing, is like, this is the very beginning of the movie, and it's like, I just don't fit in this showbiz world. But then...
That's all he is. What else is he?
Yeah, I don't see the rest of the movie showing how he doesn't fit. He seems to fit in fine.
It definitely just... Well, they don't spend they spend hardly any time in the current.
Yeah.
So, but I guess it's supposed to be like, this is just his psyche. This is how he frames things in the world.
Feels like an imposter.
Feels misunderstood. Feels not given enough credit, which makes sense when you understand what his dad was like, which is just a person that he could have never pleased, who always called him an idiot, who didn't.
But this, and then, we can get to that, to his parents.
Great.
Then the wraparound story for this movie is he meets a sexy lady on an airplane, and he gets really close to her face.
You know what? Wait, I just realized it. That's the message of the wraparound story, is like, to know me is to love me. That's it. That's this whole message to everyone. You might think you don't like me, and you might not get me, but if you sat next to me for a couple of hours, you'd be schmitten.
Well, he says at the end of the movie, I grow on you like a fungus.
Yeah, and that I just realized that is the message of the fucking movie. Like me, because you would in a minute. Just go ahead and skip to that part where you like me.
I guess.
No, I know.
Well, he's talking to this sexy lady who doesn't want to be seated next to him, but she has to. And then he's like, I know you think you don't like me, but let me tell you. And then he tells the story of the movie. It's very strange. So presumably this is the present tense, which means 1996 or 7. Then we flash back to him as a kid. And this is the really Annie Hall portion of the movie, is him growing up and his parents and how colorful this world. Roosevelt, New York. It's on Long Island. And his dad takes him in. His dad works in radio as some sort of suit, not an on-air talent, but that's where his dad is not. His dad is not on-air.
His dad's an engineer.
Okay,
but I did read something interesting about that scene. That scene is supposedly what makes him want to become a radio personality, because he tells Symphony Sid, who is the on-air voice, he being Howard's dad. Symphony Sid is having a fit and breaking records and doesn't want to go on the air, and he's causing a ruckus. And then Howard Stern's dad stands up in his booth and out of nowhere says, I, by the power invested in me, like he says some stupid stuff, makes Symphony Sid calm down, and he makes Symphony Sid like, holy crap, this guy. And then, Howard's dad took charge in that moment, and then Howard's like, and from then on, I wanted to be on radio, which does not make sense if you think about it for even 1 second. And then you read about that actual situation, and it's the reverse. It is because of how deferential his dad was to the talent that made him want to be the talent, because he thought, well, then finally my dad will look at me, respect me, understand what I'm doing, and have an instant respect for it, because that's who he respects already.
That makes way more sense. And
More sense.
One of the elements that recurs is him clashing with the business people in radio.
Yeah.
And the bad stretch where he has to himself become one of the business people.
Yep.
So it is weird that the thing that inspires him is his dad yelling at the guy and then the guy deferring to him.
And I think that was just a mistake in the way that the movie was cut, or it might have, I think at that time in the 90s, and Howard Stern's dad still being alive and his mom, he probably was trying to send a bit of a message to his dad in addition to, hey, I'm successful. But like, you know, and that's why he put all the, you're an idiot, you're a moron, you shut up. Like, at least trying to show his dad, look, this is how I felt as a kid. This is what you were like to me.
Mm-hmm.
But he probably didn't want to be so heavy-handed and make any kind of a fool of the dad at all, which he doesn't, that he would show that on the movie. I think, like, he even said, we listened to a Mark Maron interview from February of this year with Howard Stern, and he even says in that interview, when they're talking about their dads, how jealous he is of Mark Maron because Mark Maron stood up to his narcissistic, disapproving father, and Howard Stern could just never have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted so badly for his dad to love him and like
so
him.
The movie itself is an act of of trying to please and to be a subservient.
Was saying enough that, see, Daddy, you made me sad, and not at all hurting his ego in any way, because that would have made him feel so much shame and fear that his dad might.
Yeah, and this inspires his love of radio, and his parents when the actor is finally played by Howard, right? Once Howard, the real Howard Stern, takes over and the role of Howard Stern, and they ask him what he wants to do with his life, and he says he wants to be on the radio.
That's not the real Howard in that scene.
Point? Okay.
It's not until he gets to college.
Okay. Well, they ask him what he wants to do. He says, I want to be on radio. And his dad's like, radio? I don't know about that.
You hardly ever say a word.
And he's like, but I really want it. And his dad's like, well, in that case, the best school in the world for radio is Boston University.
Not what he
and
says.
We're going to send you there, son.
It's not what he says. He says, well, in that case, I heard of an opportunity to do that at Boston. That's it. Like, he just happened to hear something.
Let's pull it up.
And his dad, it was in the military and ran a military radio show. Or that's where his dad got, because his dad doesn't seem like he has a love of the creative arts. It just makes sense that he was in whatever kind of radio program they had because of in the military. That's what he did.
Beginning of clip.
Okay.
Howard, you're graduating from high school this year. You should be making some kind of plan for your future.
You need a plan.
I want to be on the radio.
He wants to be on radio.
But to be on the radio, you have to have a voice. You have to have some verbal ability. You hardly ever say a word.
This all from a guy who's only told me to shut up about 50,000 times.
I talk.
You really want to be on the radio? Okay. If you want a shot at radio, the counseling center says there's a communications program at Boston University.
See?
And then they send him there. Very supportive.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's how low your fucking bar is. He's like, I want to follow in your footsteps, Papa. Like, and so the dad's like, hell yeah, you do.
And I've arranged for you to be able to do it, son.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Proud of you, boy.
All right. He doesn't say proud.
No, I know. No, you're right.
He never says one sweet thing. But I mean, yeah, to get him that opportunity. Yeah.
You're right. I read this scene at first as being his dad. His parents are supportive, even if they're like, I don't get this guy, but hey, they still like pay for him. But yeah,
they're affluent.
I do read it kind of differently after.
Did I do it again?
They're affluent. You did well enough. Ooh.
That's all right.
Well, what happens next? He goes to college and he's creepy and
he's asking. He's a volume shooter. He addresses his need for sex, but he never outright says, I have a sex addiction. And I don't know if he does or not. Like, is that just does he just need love? So that's why the opening scene is him asking woman after woman. Just if I ask enough people out, someone will say yes. So is that for companionship? Because later in the movie, he talks about how he wants sex all the time, but Allison doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it ever being something that he talked about on the show about having a sex addiction. It seems almost like a love addiction.
I was wondering that myself.
An approval
because but it also, the way he talks about it is kind of in a way that's divorced from actual sexuality.
Yep.
So I suspect it is sort of just attention and approval. Yep. Because, like, I don't know, real people who are horny don't talk like this.
Yeah, they don't.
I'm just so horny, oh my god.
Right. It's almost like he's putting on a persona. It's something to disguise that it's actually an intense need for approval and attention, which again, in the Mark Maron episode, he addresses that too, saying, I just wanted all of it. Mm-hmm. I wanted everyone
And
to give me attention.
It gets your attention right away. It also makes you prone to just opening up because he just went ahead and said that. And the first time he meets Robin in the movie, he asks her, "Do women ever get horny? Do you ever get horny?" And she just goes right along with it because I don't know. He's playful and he's saying these super revealing things, and you want to go along with it.
And
you don't want to embarrass the man.
Right, you're right. He's instantly vulnerable. He's already given away something huge about himself, and he seems earnest. Like he really is curious. Teach me. I want to know about your ways, woman. Did you know he dated Robin Quivers?
I read that.
That's crazy to me.
The absolute best thing about this movie, and this is a good movie. You thought so, right?
I did.
I liked it. We watched it twice. The second time I liked it even more. But the best things are just these filmed radio bits, and especially Howard and Robin have like this incredible chemistry.
They do. And she's got a magical voice.
Yeah.
God, does she?
So they're both great at playing themselves, and they make these radio bits very cinematic. That stuff is great. So he goes to college. He gets a job as college DJ, but it's not. He's doing it, but he's not doing a great job of it. And weird things. He's dropping stuff on the record players and stuff.
Yeah, there's only one clip of that, and it's just a horrendous first start, I guess, or to say I was just a mess.
Yeah.
And now look at me. He had to start from the lowest of the low.
I thought that there would be more of a straightforward, here's how I found my voice. It's kind of there, but you have to look for it. Like, he's just sort of trying to be typical DJ. Oh, sorry. Here's a question. When you listen to him in the 90s, he did not play music. It was a purely talk show.
Purely talk. This
but
was after
at these points of the 70s, I guess, he is still like a traditional guy who talks and then introduces
That's all
songs.
he was. He wasn't a personality. And in the way that like Stevie G and Teapot on our freaking 97
Who?
whatever. Exactly who. But these are just on-air personalities who are just there to talk in between songs and to give you a little information every now and then. But the more they started developing their own personality and then they started having a relationship with each other, the room for them to talk grew and grew and became more of a show with music around it rather than they are someone to introduce the new music in between more music. So I'm sure his slowly, the music just kept getting less and less. All that mattered was that rating stayed up, and I think he probably just made it into whatever he wanted.
In the way, this is the birth of podcasts.
Oh.
Well, it's just, why do people like podcasts? It's because I can listen in my ears on demand, and I feel like I know these people.
Yeah.
And you listen enough, and it's like, I like you guys more than I like the subject matter you're covering. I find you guys interesting. I want to listen to you and feel like you're my friends.
Yep.
So this is also when he meets Allison, who's played by Mary McCormack, very charming in this film. And she's bemused by him.
I felt it all three. I mean, the two times we watched it this time, and I remember distinctly having this feeling of that is Howard Stern. That is really him. That is an actress. That is not actually his wife. They are being so intimate whenever he's throwing up because he fired someone when he was forced to be a manager of a radio station instead of being the on-air personality. And he's vomiting, and she's so sweet. And then the next scene is him laying on her lap, inches from her face, her stroking his hair, and him asking, "Would you still love me if I wasn't?" And it's like, you just threw up. You're 2 inches from this actress's. Like, how disgusting is this for this actress? That's how repulsed I am.
Oh, so but it seems like it was an effective performance. I thought you were going to say it the opposite of like, this is a real person and she just looks too much like an actress. I find that happens sometimes when people can just look too actorly, too not even pretty, but like
polished.
You just look polished. You're saying words in a way that only actors say them, whereas he is not. He is just being
right. He's
himself.
off the cuff. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's how I know I had no crush on Howard Stern. It's like, oh, then she's got to kiss him. Sick.
He is. She is starting her career and is supporting him, and he gets a job. He gets offered a position of program director for a radio station, which means he's not going to be on air anymore. He has to be people's bosses, and he doesn't like that. And this sort of seeds the feud with Paul Giamatti later in the movie. I think it is telling that we want to spend some time with him getting the perspective of having to be a boss and having to fire people and having to moderate their content and think about the bottom line, and how that can sort of clash with creativity and art. Yes,
Of course. But it takes both, Matt.
it does.
You gotta have that money. That's sweet
He
cheddar.
it seems like the part where he sort of stumbles into maybe what the secret of his on-air persona is when he's doing this live read for a commercial, but he loses the lines, and so he just improvs
And completely gets caught in a lie.
and I really liked his acting.
I did too.
So let's just pull it up.
God, these wigs.
WCCC
so
also
bad.
wants to remind you that our new sponsor, Stanley Sport, is a great place to go. You know, I got to tell you something. When I was a child, I used to go to Stanley Sport all the time. I love Stanley Sport. My parents would take me through there, and we just had a great time. And we could walk out with tons of stuff, even though my parents didn't make a lot of money. Oh, and there's only one Stanley Sports, and the grand opening is this weekend. Mark it on your calendar. The grand opening is this. I just realized that makes no sense what I just said. I just told you I went there as a kid, and now the grand opening. Well, I think I was just caught in a lie. Oh boy! You know what the truth is? I'm a disc jockey who makes $250 a week, and I just want to do the right thing here on the air. I don't want to get fired, so I guess I lied to you, but I'll never let that happen again. You know what I mean? Oh boy, do I feel stupid.
Okay, so I like
Yeah.
that he doesn't say anything crude, nothing inappropriate there. He is literally just sort of being a dork.
Yeah.
A very, very earnest dork, and just being like, boy, I feel like a big dork, a big goober, don't I?
That's his secret
Yes.
sauce. His vulnerability. He is just a big fucking goober. And I do like, though, that, I mean, he's very specific about what he shows in this movie, and he very clearly gives his wife credit for identifying that and inspiring him to do what ended up making him really successful. I think that's nice.
Because very shortly after that, she's like, I feel like the
that
show's...
scene, the one that you just ended, is when she just says, yeah, just like when you're yourself.
Yes.
And it identifies that exact moment as being the best part of his show so far.
Yes. So what happens next? The thing with the actress, who takes him to her bathtub.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Morgan Fairchild.
She
What a weird, did that really happen? What a weird way to kind of cheat on your wife.
I don't know, but this happens a different time in the movie where a porn star is naked in the radio studio with him and then is going to give him a massage, and he's wearing only boxers. And it's like, his wife has said, you can't cheat on me. I don't want, that's not
But
the kind of
on air,
relationship I want.
I know, but on air, that's you playing a character. But when you're off air, I got to be the only one. And that, I assume, is the difference. He was off air with Morgan Fairchild.
So
You could fuck all you want as long as it's on air, I guess.
he could literally,
I don't think so.
okay.
I don't. Yeah, that scene has always confused me too, because it looks like they're about to show you him take it way too far, and then it just gets cut off in some big huge moment that ends up being important for a different reason.
Right.
So it's like it's like, well, why even bring it up? Or I guess that was literally what was happening. I guess the reason why Pig Vomit, the producer that he hates so much. Oh, that was because he had gone so far that the guy that has it out for him, that wants him to quit or to tame him, tells what is that? An engineer? What's the guy in the other booth? Okay,
Yeah.
to cut his mic, and that's what he does. He just all of a sudden he's not on the air anymore, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And so I guess it had to be a scene that was going beyond in order for that to have happened.
No, I understand that part.
Yeah.
But if the movie is about his relationship with Allison
Is it?
and the tension,
It doesn't.
it's one of the big things. I mean, he says at the end of the movie, the end of the day, it's all about Allison. She's my best friend, the perfect person
That's what he
I
tells
could have ever
himself.
Okay, but I'm saying the movie itself is about the love of Allison and Howard and their relationship.
I don't think so. But all right.
You don't think what?
I don't think so. I don't think the movie's about that. I think the movie's about him and all the things he wants us to see about him. And I think Allison is just one tiny part of it. But he makes an equal amount of a big deal about how good he is at radio and Robin. And like,
You're gonna is a major theme of the movie is the relationship and how she's this fulcrum in his life, and this is the human part of him.
yeah, for sure that. But again, it's just about him.
So that sort of tension, I don't feel like ever gets like. Is he even aware of it? Of
Right.
you've told me I am not to cheat on you. We don't have that kind of marriage. You don't want me being intimate with other women.
Right. Where's that line?
But
what
I'll
counts as
do it here, which is I'll be in my boxers and a naked woman will climb all over me and stuff. And that's okay because it's in service of a bit.
I guess. But
Never
they don't
remarked upon.
They don't seem like they have that discussion, right? Like what is and isn't cheating, because he didn't physically do anything with the other woman too, except for that he got into his underwear, got into a bathtub, got an erection, she grabbed his penis. That's it. Like
But my point is he should know this is not something she would be happy with, but then doesn't acknowledge in the movie
that's what I'm saying.
that I'm betraying her.
Again, that's why I say this movie isn't about their love story. It's about him, and that love story only interests Howard in the sense that we're impressed at how hot his wife is and how smart his wife is. Doesn't seem to matter to him at all if what individual things might have made her upset if he didn't have to deal with the fact that it made her upset. She didn't seem to have a problem because that day ended up being about his big altercation with the producer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it also seems weird that that's the only, like, he's known for naked people, for women being naked on his show. Like, that's his thing. That's the only time they show that. That's the only time it ever comes up.
I think it maybe happens one more time.
Just the lesbian talking about like her first lesbian experience, and then the one where the woman straddles a subwoofer and has an orgasm in her own apartment that's not him
she's
with
not in the
anyone.
studio,
There's no other naked part.
At a certain part, like Allison is riding in a car with some other women and they're listening to the show.
Yeah.
And she's uncomfortable by the show, and the other woman in the car is like, "Your husband's such a character," and she's like, "Only on the radio. He's normal off the air or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And then she turns it off. I just feel like that's where the dramatic juice is.
You're
and
right.
The movie doesn't really seem that interested in it.
God, is that the only time they show Allison by herself, as if she has an exterior life or any kind of,
Yeah, it might be.
except for her at her job? But those are parts of him talking about her, knowing what she's doing. This is maybe the only scene where it's just something she experienced all by herself. It's got nothing to do with him.
What's just funny that acknowledges, he's just a character on the radio, but she doesn't totally believe this clearly.
No.
And then the movie ends with Howard declaring their love is eternal and great, and then in reality they divorced 2 years after
Right.
the movie was made. I wonder if Betty Thomas detected that and was like, no, we need to put something in here. Like, you say that this is all good, but clearly this is not all okay. How can you be in a relationship with somebody like?
Well, just the miscarriage part always bothered me, and it's supposed to. I mean, there's nothing funny about it to me, and so many people dealing with not being able to get pregnant.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is why I suck at this podcast.
You don't suck. You're good.
So the way
It's a good podcast.
to show his progression into talking about his private parts, his real life, like he says he's making this big move to a new radio station, and he says, Allison, the way I'm going to make this work is I can't hold back anymore. I've got to be everything I'm thinking and everything I'm experiencing, I'm going to put it on that radio show. And she's like, all right, do it. And the way they show a big example of this is, one, he accidentally gets Allison to say she's pregnant on the air. Mm-hmm. So now his audience knows that and will be wondering, hey, what's up with the baby? So that does put him in a position where he does need to address the fact that she has a miscarriage weeks later. So he was going to have to do it anyway. or else people were going to keep asking about where's the baby. But the way he does it is so graphic, and God making fun of his inability.
But the scene before
Sorry.
that is when they're in bed and she's talking about being sad over losing the baby, and then he cheers her up by being similarly
Disgusting.
graphic about it, and she laughs. She's and it's maybe the best scene in the movie. It's very sweet and very funny.
She has a very good sense of humor and
Yes.
gets him. She really gets him.
Yes,
is how it looks.
And so then he like tries to basically recreate this on the air, and I grabbed this clip because it is very funny. Somebody talking about this.
I don't find it funny.
He's talking to God, and he's playing crying
you
baby
should've-
sound effects from heaven.
He should have done it right the first time, Howard. Yeah, but
Please.
You tried to have a baby and you failed.
Oh, man.
Now the baby is with me.
And that's his voice as God.
Boy, what
yeah,
a loser
I noticed
you
that the
are.
second watching.
Wow, he's getting awfully personal this morning.
Hey, God, me and my wife are trying to have another baby, you
A
know.
real man would have done it right the first time, Howard.
Oh, for God's sake.
It will be pleasant today, rain tomorrow.
It's my kid up
This
there.
is God with the weather on DC 101.
You're all wrong, God. You're completely out of line this morning.
I don't think we should be talking about this.
I went to the doctor
That's
with
my
my wife. I
kid.
gotta tell you that.
That is
so
funny.
It was an awful experience.
That
because the
one
doctor
moment,
walks out, and there's your
'cause
kid,
it's so
your
ridiculous.
beautiful child, and he's no bigger than the size of an aspirin. Howard
Okay.
Jr.
Okay.
no bigger than the size.
Well, yeah, because where's the line, right? Like, I mean, for some people that's hilarious, but for people who are actually going through shit like that, it's so not funny.
Well, she gets upset and calls him an idiot, and I'm not an idiot. Because there's a difference. We were joking. That was just for us. Then you brought it out into the world, and talked that way about our dead kid, joking about it to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem with being Howard Stern. Like, where is that line? Because that makes these amazing moments when you go just far enough, but you got to hurt someone. You've either got to hurt the radio station you're working for, or someone in your personal life, or then it's not authentic. Like, if someone's not the butt of your joke, it's not funny.
But nobody's the butt of the joke. I mean, you're saying Allison is the butt of the joke?
Well, or like that's what makes it Howard Stern quality, is that there are stakes. Like, oh shit, he went there. And you can't do that without there being someone to care that you went to the place. It's
The butt of the joke is on the
okay. It doesn't have to
the
be a
dead
butt.
baby.
It doesn't have to. Thank you. Whose mother is still alive and very upset that the baby's dead, right? So there's no but.
Okay.
There's just someone very offended
okay.
and hurt, and that's what makes it like, damn, like that.
He never seems to actually understand her point here.
Yeah.
That this is just how they'll have to coexist. That again is what's interesting about this movie, is also knowing they got divorced shortly after this movie, and he's like, this is the understanding we've reached in our life, and clearly it was not. And you can just watch this movie and see she does not agree with the things you're saying about how your relationship works.
True, but he's getting very right. He's so famous now for being exactly this way. Maybe not quite yet. I can't remember. He's signing boobs. You know, what I mean, he's
At which point?
I'm just not sure, but he's getting there, right? Once he's got Robin and he's got Fred and the whole crew's there, and I'm not sure what studio. That's what I'm saying. This movie jumps around to different studios, and all three of them are together in 3 different places, I think. Anyway, what I'm saying is you've got Allison, and she at home, and she gets mad sometimes, but she hangs on, and she's still actively trying to have kids with you. And then and then eventually does, right? They have 3 daughters, so clearly she held on for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you've got your fame that's growing and growing to the extent that you're doing press conferences in Washington DC. Anyway, I'm just saying, I don't. He is what matters to him. That's why I don't think this movie is about them. I think that only is a big part of it, because that is a big part that gives him clout. He's got a smart, beautiful wife. Doesn't matter that Allison is smart.
Okay, I mean, he did agree when the screenwriter said this is a movie about you two. It's Annie Hall. It's about your romance, and that's what made him hire this writer. And the director said, I didn't want this to be so career focused. I want it to be about the relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, they can say whatever they want. It doesn't make it true.
he's being pulled by two things he wants very badly. Love and true, like, unconditional love and intimacy at home, and then just gobs of attention forever and adoration.
He's also like inventing this role. I mean, the superstar, internationally famous radio personality who talks for 5 hours a day and talks about his life and is very, shares lots of stuff. I guess there wasn't a model.
It's a 24-hour news cycle about him. So it's fucking hard.
And Allison knows him before any of this happens. And so has to, it's like, well, I signed up for this level and then that level, but I didn't totally know what I was getting into.
And in that way, that's why I'm thinking there's no big tragedy here. Like, he put his line in the sand. He was very clear, like, he needed to keep sharing. And she was very clear, like, well, sometimes I'm going to be really fucking pissed about that.
Yeah.
And those things ran along parallel as long as they could and neither of them wanted to take back or to change their position.
So then eventually he gets hired in New York to the big
WNBC.
To WNBC. We meet Paul Giamatti as Pig Vomit,
who was the only role I ever knew him in for years, and I hated the fucking sight of his face because of this fucking role.
You would always refer to Paul Giamatti as Pig Vomit.
Oh.
I'd be like, what is that?
We're watching Sideways, a movie I love. I'm like, oh, Pig Vomit.
And I eventually knew it was from the Howard Stern movie, and so I was like, I guess he plays some like weird wacko morning zoo character. No, he's an executive in a suit.
He's his dad.
This guy, so they said that the character Giamatti is playing is a composite character. That seems to be kind of a lie. This is just a real guy who they changed his name, and in real life he called him Pig Virus. In the movie they're calling him Pig Vomit. I watched a clip from an interview of Howard Stern with Paul Giamatti in 2010. And Giamatti says, I didn't know this was a real guy.
The accent, the accent, was the guy Southern for real? Is that why they gave him an accent?
I don't know.
That's very specific. I mean, the guy's in New York. Why is he talking like that?
The director said, just do like a bumpkin Kentucky accent.
Oh, Kentucky. That makes sense.
And then he never saw a picture of him or anything. Yeah.
Okay. Are they friends?
I don't know if they're friends. This was a delightful interview to watch.
Well, I'm just saying, why that many years later, 13 years later, are they doing an interview?
He was probably promoting something.
Who?
Giamatti.
Oh, like it's him at Howard's place. It's
on
not,
the show.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I thought you meant they were being dual interviewed by a third person.
Oh, no.
Like, really? What kind of press and junket were they doing this for?
No.
Private or parters? No.
It's funny because he was talking about a movie he made after this, starring Rupert Grint, who played Ron in the Harry Potter movies, as a like whose superpower is farting, and he gets hired by MI6. And Paul Giamatti's like, yeah, despite my turn in private parts, my career didn't totally explode after this. That's the other. You said he's a great interviewer. I mean, just from what I've heard, like he's outstanding, and he can get people to talk about stuff and talk. You just don't hear actors talking that way about their careers like that
ever. It comes right back to he's so disarming because he is an open book. There are no private parts.
Yeah.
He makes you feel like you're just the only two people in the room. Like you're whispering to each other. And you know how much I hate whispering.
Yeah, me I fucking hate it.
It's fucking gross.
We are
You just quivered, Robin.
I was thinking we were watching the television show Justified 15 years after it was made, and
meaning we're watching it right now.
Jeremy Davies plays a Jeremy Davies character, so he's always talking like this.
Wait, which one's Jeremy? The guy from Lost?
Yeah, he's
That's just how he sounds. He's always out of breath.
And all I can think about is how much of a nightmare it must be to record for the sound guy and then mix it, and then just like his breath probably stinks.
You think that about him? I always think that about about Boyd.
About Boyd, about Walton Goggins.
Yeah, because they make such a big deal in Vice Principals about how his breath stinks, like in multiple occasions. So now every time I see him, I'm like, ugh, don't get in Ava's face like that, Boyd.
And both of us hate that they say that about Bob Belcher.
Well, and Tina Belcher.
Really?
No. Yeah. Oh. So now, I mean, they make comment after comment about Tina's breath. and Bob's
Just somebody saying bad breath about a cartoon will make me unhappy.
that person for me.
Yeah.
Ruins.
Yeah.
Done.
Me too.
There are 2 people I know that have halitosis
Now,
from my past, and I cannot conjure their faces without smelling their breath. It's so unfortunate.
I'm having trouble with this conversation we're having.
If I had that issue, there are no links I wouldn't go to make that not be one of my issues. It's so... All right, I'm stopping.
Well, pig vomit probably smells like pig vomit, and he is not happy. That was a professional
segue?
radio segue,
Okay,
I
got it.
guess. He's like, I'm gonna get Howard under control because he's out of control. He's saying inappropriate things, and what happens? Well, you got to submit your scripts to me ahead of time, and I
Okay.
have to pre-approve bits.
A part that I didn't realize until watching it the second time is that they, sight unseen, signed him to $1 million contract that they have to pay half, $500,000, if they fire him before that contract expires. And so, like, the big muckety muck at WNBC sees Howard on the news for being a shock jock, and they're like, "What the fuck? This is who you hired? What? You're all fired. Get out of here." And good old Kentucky Pig Vomit says, "Don't worry, I'll either get him into shape or he'll quit." And then that's why he's so... Because I always wonder, like, why are you being so mean? You guys hired him. He's so nice. He's just shocky. And why are you being so... Anyway, yeah.
It happens all the time, though.
I'm dumb for not
I
having
mean, but
kids.
that specific thing is
I was
like,
a kid.
Why
I wouldn't have understand contracts, and that $500,000 is a lot of money. I wouldn't have gotten that totally.
No, but your question of like, well, why hire him then if you don't want him to do his thing? But that happens like all the time in business and entertainment and sports.
It's obvious to zap him from the other market so that you're not competing with Imus, the person who's in your market, who he was completely, blowing out of the water. Now it's like, oh, duh.
But
It's a catch and kill.
And then just disconnect between people who make these business decisions and people who are like, does this fit our creative vision, or do we want this kind of thing on the air, or why would we hire this person and then not let them do their thing that made them so popular in the first place? And so they fire Robin because she helps Howard with a bit that Pig Vomit hates, and he can't fire Howard, so he can fire Robin. And Howard doesn't really do much to stand up for Robin. I mean, he objects, but he doesn't say like, "Well, then I quit," and because she says that to him. You should have quit. Unsaid is this. I'm a black woman in this largely white man industry, and you have so much more power than me. That's.
I'm always going to be vulnerable, and you're always going to be protected. And honestly, he could have quit. I mean, well, I don't know the terms of his contract. He could have left and then not had the money, but he's the biggest fucking thing ever. So couldn't he just go to the second biggest, whatever market for that, and then take Robin with him, get her written into the contract? I mean, there are probably things he could have. He should have quit. No, I don't know. I always saw like she was being unreasonable. It's like, ugh. He said he didn't like it, Robin. God. But yeah.
Yeah, if you're Robin, you're like, I'm the most important piece to what makes this all work. Like, this thing doesn't work without me, and you're not showing that that I'm valuable. And then like, what else am I gonna like?
Right. What's the skill set gonna?
Where
take
am I gonna
me?
go that's gonna be anywhere near what I can make here, what I can do here? But then he gets her back by hiring a series of even less competent people who just, he hires the guy, or they
There's just
set him
one
up with
person.
the news guy.
Yeah.
Who,
But he makes him so uncomfortable that guy quits.
Yes.
And then his excuse is, it's Robin. She reels me in. I'm going to keep fucking people over like this and not interacting correctly with the people you hire unless you get,
So they bring Robin back. He said, Robin's the voice of reason, although she doesn't seem to be. She actually,
Agreed.
she's an enabler more than anything. She seems reasonable.
She does. And then, but no, she's a sneaky, like, up to no good grandma. Like, oh, I'll take, you guys need to go to bed. And then the parents go, Candy? She fuels the fire in a very covert way. Am I saying the right word? She's always bothered me. I really like her. And in this movie, I love her. But on air, like if you watch and listen to enough of it, she can be sometimes the meanest person because she is the only rail stop guard. What am I trying to say? She's the only thing to slow down the train. And if she is on board with whatever like mean thing he's saying to somebody, then it just gets really bad. Like,
Oh, okay.
She's the buffer, and if she doesn't buff, which isn't really fair, she should be able to be funny too. But sometimes I don't know, it always hurt my feelings more for the person they're talking about or talking to.
If she joins in.
Was mean. Yeah.
You're getting really choked up about
It
it.
really upset me.
Yeah. This gets resolved the big climactic sequence is when Howard is doing the thing with the naked massage and Pig Vomit pulls them off the air, and then he retaliates by, once they get back on the air, he takes a phone and goes into his office live on the air, and he's like, why
Well,
did
hit
you?
him back.
So let's play. This is really great. This is really well done.
And I like that he's in his socks.
He's walking very funny.
Because he's in his socks, and he's in a fucking...
Yeah, everybody can hear.
Okay, I'm right outside Pig Vomit's office. I'm going to knock on his door.
And so he's on the air,
Vomit.
by being patched through a phone call to
and
the...
you can hear there is a radio in this office playing it, so you're hearing everything he says on a 5-second delay, which just makes everything feel really disoriented.
Open up.
Funny, Howard.
Oh, it's not funny? What are you talking about? It is funny. I think it's very funny. And how would you know it's funny anyway?
You're not bringing that
Hey, I don't see anybody in here to meet. Do you? I gotta go. Why do I have to go? Why don't you explain to my audience why you had to shut down the show?
I don't
Explain
answer
to us
to you,
right
Stern.
now.
I
Yes,
don't
you do,
answer
you
to
big
you,
idiot
okay?
scumbag. To me. I'm your
Okay.
boss. I'm your
Real
boss.
cute.
I'm
Let's
your
go.
boss.
Let's go.
Hey, what's this? What's
No.
this? Robin, is everybody salary on his desk?
God
Hit
damn
me.
it, get out of here.
He hit me, Robin. She's hit me.
Get out!
I'm gonna hit you back. I hit him back. He hit me.
Hit me,
Not getting the
Robin.
phone from me, Kenny. No.
Hit him back!
Kenny just hit himself in the face. He's bleeding. Hey, come on. Oh my God. Vin just got hit by Kenny. Kenny just hit Vin. Vin, I didn't do anything.
Blood, Stern!
Are you okay?
No! My nose!
Hey, it wasn't my fault. I just came in here to find out why the show was called.
Get out of here!
No, I was just doing a bit.
I'll shoot your ass.
I'll sue your ass.
Oh, that makes more sense.
I'll shoot your ass.
I'll shoot you in the ass. I'm from Kentucky.
The resolution to this is that Pig Vomit sees the ratings books and they're really good. So, hey, we're good with you now.
But then Pig Vomit goes to his house, and says, "Look, I'm so sorry. From now on, I'm totally on board. I'm your man." And then Howard shuts the door in his face. And I never thought of that part as being like, "Wow, way to go, Howard! You really stuck it to the man." I always thought of it as, Pig Vomit's being nice. Why are you being mean?
What? You still feel that way?
He came all the way to your house.
Don't come to my house. That's horrible. No one come to my house.
I don't know.
No, he's saying,
I
hey,
always
you can
felt
make
bad for
make
Pig-
money, so now we're partners.
Yeah.
And that's I think it's saying we're partners. Like you don't
Yeah.
contribute anything.
But part of me also was worried for Howard, like, oh, well, now you don't have an enemy to rail against. Well, who knows if you're going to be any good? Because you've never had the guardrails totally. I mean, here we go, guardrails and bumpers again. Motherfucker. This analogy's not working for me. I did wonder, did he need the nemesis? Turns out no.
Well, this is
I guess the FC, who,
this is the early 80s. I mean, and then
early 80s.
this is I didn't realize this pretty much all of the
Oh.
movie just takes place up until 1984.
Explains his
and then
hair.
the wraparound on the airplane, that's 96, 97.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
God. Okay, yeah, I guess
And
a lot would have to happen for him to be on the VMAs.
So that's the other thing is
That's weird.
this is the specific part. It's the Rise. The Rise is the story I wanted to tell about.
But that
myself.
explains the AC/DC being the concert as well, right? Because
AC/DC would be a concert now, like they're always.
but there wasn't a big enough. They needed time to become vintage and cool. It makes sense that in the 80s that would be like a hot thing to get, rather than 10 years later. 10 years later isn't far enough distance. They would just be. They need time to become uncool to be cool again. Don't disagree with me.
Well, I think that might be true about just about everybody, but AC/DC.
I don't want to hear it.
All right. He by being part of big corporate media and being allowed to get away with that, you always have that tension. And so even if you don't literally have a nemesis, the thing is, he's allowed to say this on national radio, working for NBC.
Is it the FCCA? Who?
FCC.
FCC, that's it. And I would assume that that's a constant. He's going to cost them money all the time for fines, and he's always going to be a liability. There will always be someone to push back against, probably.
Right. Until he
What about when he gets on Sirius
leaves
Radio?
and goes to Sirius.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't do, that's the thing. I tried to like really get informed about all this, but I saw this is a world that is so huge. Howard Stern fandom is so massive, so much like mythology and history built into it, that I'm going to sound dumb if I even try. And I've sounded dumb, I'm sure, and we don't know what we're talking about.
I'm getting a divorce. Anita? Isn't that her name?
Dare you say her name?
I forgot her name until just
Of
that
our
moment.
divorce lawyer / counselor.
Who lives here. Just in case I need a divorce. ASAP.
It is expensive housing.
Worth it.
I don't know what the legacy of his move to Sirius is. If it's like the show went downhill once he got to Sirius because of the.
It went downhill?
No, I'm saying I don't know if that's like something everybody thinks.
Where is he now?
Sirius.
No. What part of the hill? Did he go up, down, now he's up again? Like, what is he? What is his? That's the thing. I don't know his reputation now.
I don't know. Well, these like he has like really toxic old fans who are like, I don't like woke Howard.
Oh.
But I read stuff woke Howard says, and it sounds just like Howard, but just like
evolved with the times.
Not like yes, but not in like a. I don't know. Like he like asked to atone for how much of a platform he gave Donald Trump, and he'll still like talk about it, like, well, Donald's a friend.
Yeah,
and it's like that's another thing this movie doesn't get at is like, what does he think about art? What does he think about politics and the things he's doing and contributing to, and what is it all in service
right
of? Does he have an animating philosophy?
Does he think of himself as being responsible for things in the way that like Oprah is? And you know, and it probably is hard to think of yourself as being someone that did a thing when you always kind of feel lesser than just inside of yourself. Well,
here's what I was.
Oh yeah, sorry.
About Sirius is like a radio show that I listen to every day for almost 15 years is the Dan Le Batard Show, which I started listening to before they went to ESPN Radio when they're just a Miami station. They just uploaded their whole show as a podcast, and I would listen to it there. And then they moved to ESPN Radio, so they were nationwide. And 2 years ago, they left ESPN and are now like podcast, self-funded podcast only. And this isn't the only reason, but like once they were on their own and out of the corporate machine, it did kind of lose some of its appeal because they were their show that makes fun of the very idea of sports talk radio, of being like serious and stuffy. And once you start listening to them, it's hard to then listen to serious sports radio because you can only hear them talking the cliches.
You only hear parody.
That Le Batard Show exposes. But because they were doing it from inside ESPN, which is the purveyor of this kind of stuff, it does kind of lose its edge. It's like, well, now you don't have bosses and you can say whatever you want. And also, you don't have like the natural rhythms of radio, the breaks, the not being able to go back and edit yourself.
Your guys in the living room, like you're being too windy. Like you don't have to stop. You're just like.
Some people need the restraints. The restraints make it entertaining, and because you know it's coming from you hear the tension of, I have bosses who don't totally approve of what I'm saying.
And last week tonight, it's also, I don't know if he sprinkles that in, John Oliver. Like, I don't even know if there really is tension with him and whoever is producing his show, but he always puts that element in there.
Because they're on HBO, which is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, and he's always making fun of Warner Brothers Discovery. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there's some Warner Brothers executives like, why are we paying him to say this?
I know, but because it is a formula that works, this like, I'm the bad boy of this station. I wonder if John Oliver even really has an issue with the person he's making fun, or the entity he's making fun of. It's just like putting this little layer on here makes it even better. I like it. Business daddy is what he calls him.
Do we miss anything? The movie ends.
I miss Howard.
Howard, we then resume that we suddenly remember, oh, he's narrating because he's telling this whole movie to a woman on the plane next to him.
Who gives a fucking shit?
And then he looks directly in the camera and says, like,
I could.
no one understands. Yeah,
No,
that's what he says.
he
I
says,
could
I could have
fuck
her.
this lady.
I could make love to her. Blah.
Like Woody Allen, we could make love.
Right. He's so. Blah.
Oh, we can be making love in my
We can-
apartment on Central Park
Oh my god! I could put my penis on it. Yeah,
with a typewriter.
it's too intimate.
So suddenly the
Ugh.
narration is not him telling the story, but him directly addressing the camera. Then he gets off the plane, he meets his wife and kids, and he's like, so that's my story. No one understands me. My wife rules, and maybe we'll have a threesome one day. Burp, burp, burp. That's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So what is the movie about? It's about
A
he
slice
rules.
of life. Yeah.
And
He rules.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the theme of the movie. It's not Allison. Theme is about Allison only in the sense that it reinforces that he rules. What you doing?
Looking at my note, did I miss anything? Allison, when she's pregnant, says she's huge. She looks like an elephant. She looks like Babar. You don't look like Babar. That was funny.
That was funny.
Well,
Yeah, we did it.
We did it.
We did another one,
We did it.
folks.
that's another one.
In the can.
Another one of these things.